Here we've taken the liberty of intentionally causing some damage to the perimeter guard. This is some typical stuff you'll see on a construction site. Here when you get a lot of frequent vehicle traffic back and forth over the same section, you may get a secondary crease that occurs in the material, forming sort of an S shape. We'll show you how to get this kind of secondary creasing out of the material. And over here, a vehicle is parked on top of the perimeter guard for a couple of hours, and eventually it kind of fatigued the material down to this pinned down position. We'll show you how to restore that back to vertical height. First I'm going to start over here, showing you how to get this type of a crease out of here. What you mainly need to do is provide a fulcrum point behind it by putting your toe here and then using the back of your heel on the other side to stretch the material back in the other direction. That's one way that you can eliminate this crease. Another way is to just get down on your hands and knees, use your hands and aggressively bend the material back to shape, using your thumbs to provide that fulcrum point on the back side to counter the crease and restore the pieces to vertical. When you're getting over here to restore pieces this is mostly done by leaving the pieces in the ground. You're going to be able to just kick it back and forth and stand back up on it. So I'm just going to come back up here. I'm just going to walk back and forth along the line of it, turn it to vertical quickly. Sometimes you may need to cycle back and forth and return it, cycle back once this way and then return again to vertical. Usually you can return a piece, 7-foot section like that, to vertical within just a matter of seconds like that. Every now and then a section of perimeter guard may get a tear in it. I'm going to show you real quick how to fix it up. We're going to imagine there is a little bit of a tear here along this line. We're going to use to fix that up is just a simple cable tie. I recommend trying to get a black one if you can. They're more UV stable, to last a little bit longer. To get the cable tie through the hole here, I'm going to use a nail, a pilot nail. I'm going to poke a hole through the filter fabric on one side of the tear. I'll run the cable tie through. On the other side of the tear, I'm going to poke another pilot hole through with the nail. Feed the zip tie back through, zip it off tight, and that'll repair the perimeter guard and it'll last for the rest of the project. Occasionally a section of perimeter guard may become severely mangled on a construction site. I'm going to take one here and show you how to restore it to its original factory position. First thing I'm going to do is kind of take it and stretch it back out, lay it flat. And the first step to do is to step on the perimeter guard and completely flatten it out. You want to run your feet back and forth along it like this. Try to completely flatten out the piece. The creases are rigid and you can get your hands behind them and use them, again, using them as fulcrum points against the crease to counter it. Then you're going to bend the piece forward, over on the flap. Try to make sure that you're preserving the line of the crease and flatten the piece out. Again, walking back and forth, kind of sliding your feet along the piece like this to restore it to shape. You can see it's already returning much of its shape here. Maybe one more time back and forth along it. It's a particularly stubborn piece. There, now you have a section of perimeter guard ready to be reinstalled. All right, we've mentioned a few trades that are particularly troublesome for the perimeter guard. I want to point out that all the subcontractors that are going to be working on this site can occasionally cause some damage to the perimeter guard, may cause it to flatten down or something. You can't leave the site like this. It's your responsibility, if you're the subcontractor that flattened out the perimeter guard, it's your responsibility to restore it to vertical before you leave the site. It's critical for the home builder to say. So again, if you have caused the flattening, you're going to need to get out of the truck, walk back and forth, return the pieces to vertical, maybe use some hand shaping to reform it to vertical before you leave. I'm going to talk to you now about removing the perimeter guard, either for any of those abusive trades that I mentioned earlier, the utility trenchers, the flat workers. If you need to pull a couple pieces up out of your way, I'm going to show you how to do that. Or at the end of the job when the lot's going to be finished graded, pieces are going to be removed for landscaping. I'm going to show you how to pull those up. Remember, at that point, this is the property of the home builder. The home builder has the intention of reusing these materials. It's important at that phase to make sure that these materials are stockpiled at the designated area by the site superintendent. There's a couple tools you can use for removing. After the stuff has been out on a site for so long, you're not going to be able to pull it up by hand. There's been a lot of rainfall and hot temperatures, hardening of the soils. It's going to be stuck in there pretty good. You're going to need to get in a little bit behind it. We first show you how to do it with the same trenching shovel that we use to install the perimeter guard, and I'm going to show you also an alternative tool. This is an edger, a hand edging tool. It's a little bit more efficient at getting in and underneath the perimeter guard for removal. So first here I'll show it to you with that same trenching shovel. What you want to do is you're going to have a hard built up load of backfill on top of it, and you're You're going to need to get in behind the perimeter guard piece. You get up underneath it and break up and loosen that sediment. Get up underneath it and loosen it. You're going to want to get up underneath behind. You want to drive the shovel in behind the perimeter guard and get that blade of the shovel up underneath the flap and pop up the flap like that. You see how it's loosening the sediment? It's a little bit difficult to get this shovel in underneath the flap, but you'll see how it's a little bit easier for me when I'm using the edger tool. Basically continue to go along the line. I'm going to show you the edger tool now. It's a little bit easier to get in and underneath, a little bit quicker. Pops it right up. Now once you've loosened all that sediment and got the nails propped up out of the ground a little bit, you should be able to pull it up a little bit looser. Sections should remove from each other very easily. You're going to want to shake all the sediment out, shake the dirt off. It's not necessary to clean or wash the filter in any way. In fact, the filter cake that you're going to have built up on there is going to assist in better sediment performance when you reinstall the materials later. But just for ease of handling and not getting your trucks and stuff dirty, you do want to shake off all the excess dirt. Also, you're going to want to salvage the nails. It's good to have a box or a bag handy where you can drop these into. With the nails in the flap, it's very difficult to stack the perimeter guard. And also, these nails are reusable. You want to save 5 or 6 cents on the next job. Get the next piece out of the ground here. Again, salvage the nails. Very easy. Just hold on to the flap and push the nails through. And you can see, you're just going to stack the perimeter guard pieces up like this. Very easy to stockpile hundreds or thousands of feet anywhere to immediately load in the back of the truck. Okay, so I've got my 2 sections of perimeter guard removed here, and if I was a utility trencher or a flat worker or somebody who was just opening up a temporary access point, I would be able to reinstall these pieces when I was done. And probably my trench is a little bit dirty here. I'm going to need to do a little bit of a cleanup of the trench before I reinstall the pieces. I've got the nails I can reuse. If I was a landscaper and this was the end of the project, I'm going to be taking these pieces over somewhere where the site superintendent has designated them to be stored. If I come across any pieces that may be damaged or shredded or otherwise appear not to be reusable, those can be directed into the recycling stream. Okay, we're going to talk to you next about sediment flows and maintaining perimeter guard when you have a lot of heavy flows. Over the course of the construction of this house, there may be some significant storms that bring a significant dirt load towards the perimeter here, starting with about 4 to 5 inches of freeboard height. And as you get a couple of storms, you start to get some sediment depositing. And when you lose 50% of that freeboard height, leaving you only a couple inches left, it's time to start moving some of that dirt and relocating it out of the flow path. So you just want to get some shovels. You might need to scoop it with a Bobcat cat if it's been a particularly heavy flow. You're just going to move that dirt out of the flow path so in the next storm it doesn't just return right back to the same point. I want to emphasize that out of about a 6,000 foot construction site perimeter, only about 20 or 40 feet of that perimeter is going to see substantially concentrated flows. And it's going to be important for you to pay attention to that part of your site during and post storms. And if you see occasional buildup of sediment, you may occasionally need to remove that sediment out of the flow path. If you run into a situation where this flow is so substantial that the perimeter guard has actually been overtopped, ERTEC does offer taller products to protect that small portion of your site. Alright, now we've finished talking about all the aspects of installing, working with, and maintaining perimeter guard. I'd like to close by thanking you for your participation in the program today. Remind you that trade participation in the Home Builder Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan is critical to the success of that plan, success of the BMPs, and to minimize stormwater pollution leaving the site. Your cooperation helps preserve the home builder's property, helps keep them in compliance with federal, state, and local stormwater pollution prevention laws, all while reducing the cost of home building and presenting a cleaner site for the customer.
Fasote se dola de ko, fasoka